Welcome in. Jesse Shule here from jesseshule.com. Saturday morning kickoff show. We got three special guests. We're talking about three huge games in college football today. We got the Oregon Ducks at the Washington Huskies. We got Joey Tron from the Insiders Room in to talk about that game. We got the USC Trojans at Notre Dame. We got Rye Cape, also of the Insiders Room, coming in to talk about that one. And we've got Kevin Thomas stopping by to talk about North Carolina and Miami. We had these guys on. Well, Kevin was on 2 weeks ago. Kevin picked Clemson against Syracuse. I had Syracuse plus the 7.5. I took a big loss there. Kevin is 1-0 against the Iceman on the show so far. So props to Kevin. Rye got a little bit lucky last week. He had Ohio State minus 18.5. I'm gonna call it a push for myself. I booked it at plus 20. They ended up losing by 20. Maryland and Ohio State. That was a bit of a bad beat as Maryland was in that game until the last 2 minutes. But it is what it is. It's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye, and hopefully nobody loses an eye. But before we get started, let me remind you, you can get all my football picks at jesseshule.com. 30 days, college and pros, only $199. Why would you be interested in that? Well, if you have a look at the leaderboards at your favorite website these days, whether it be Picks and Parlays, Sports Memo, Sports Capping, you'll see me on there. I'm 12-1 with college football sides so far this year, hitting pretty profitable, 67% with college football overall. We're coming off 3 straight winning Sundays with NFL. So by the way, 9-1 with CFL. So we're kind of kicking ass across the board. So come on in. If you got $99, come see me at jesseshule.com. You'll be glad that you did. And don't forget to smash that like button and comment below this video. So let's bring in our guest, starting with Joey Tron. Joey took a big L last week with Kentucky and Georgia. Joey liked Kentucky plus the points. I told him it was a bad spot, but he didn't listen. Joey needs a win, so let's bring him in and see what he's got to say for himself today. Joey Tron, what's going on, my man?
Good. How are you? How's it going?
I'm doing not bad. I'm excited about the action today, and this game is, if you're going to watch one game today, I think this is the game that everybody should be tuning into. So, I hear you like Washington. Is that true?
I do. I do like Washington.
Are you sure, Joey? Because you really need a win here on this show.
I'm 100% sure.
Okay, well, don't mind me. I'm going to get changed, and you tell everybody why you like Washington.
All right, sounds good to me. So, as you all know, I like Washington to cover the spread at home. The public is all over Oregon, and I understand why they are. Washington is outscoring opponents at home this year 115-51, and they've scored 56 or more in both home games so far this season. Oregon's hardest game so far was against Texas Tech, and they allowed 30 points and 456 yards of offense against them. Granted, that was earlier on in the season. Teams get better as time progresses. However, I just really believe that Washington's schedule has been much more difficult. Every team they faced so far outside of MSU is currently at 500 or better. Michael Penix is averaging 339 yards per game passing with a 16-2 touchdown to interception ratio, which I think is crazy. I think that's awesome. He's thrown 3 or more touchdowns in 4 out of 5 games this season. The best QB Oregon has seen so far is Shedeur Sanders, and in my opinion, I think he's pretty overrated. You and I have talked about that before, Jesse. I think Colorado as a whole is overrated, but my biggest factor today is Bo Nix on the road is an issue for me. In my opinion, he's pretty notorious for blowing these type of games in big spots. He did it when he was at Auburn against Alabama a few times, and I kind of think tonight is going to be right up his alley to do that again. Both these teams are great. There's no denying it. Oregon is 9-2 their last 11 games against the Pac-12. Washington is 8-0 their last 8 against the Pac-12. This is going to be a great game, and I think this is a true Pac-12 championship game.
Well, Joey, I got to tell you, I got to be brutally honest with you. 3-4 weeks ago, I had this game circled on my calendar, and I had Washington circled. I know I want to have Washington in this spot. I like the fact that they're bringing back all those receivers and Big Penix. And I know some people say Penix, but the guy's Twitter handle is @Big Penix energy. And if you say Penix, it just doesn't sound the same. So to me, he's going to be big Penix energy. So I had it circled. I thought this would be a great spot because I thought, the Ducks are the team that gets all the national press. Everybody, hypes up Oregon every year. Both teams will probably be undefeated. Maybe Washington will even have a loss. And I thought, maybe I could grab Washington as a home dog in this spot. And when I circled it, that was my thought. So that's not how it worked out. Washington's been lighting it up. They're a home favorite here. And as of when making plans for this show, I got to come up with the games 3-4 days in advance to, recruit guys that like the other side and make preparations. And at that time, the weather forecast was calling for rain. Not too much wind, but a lot of rain. And I thought, Ducks and rain might go together quite nicely. But at the end of the day, the Ducks are catching some points here. I know that there's this theory that Bo Nix is terrible on the road. And I mean, you could say that about a lot of guys, a lot of teams, a lot of players, better at home than they are on the road. Bo Nix has won big games on the road, though. Let's be fair. He has.
I don't disagree with that.
And do I think Bo Nix is capable of playing well on the road? I do. And as much as I like Washington and I like Michael Penix and I like Kalen DeBoer, their recipe for success is they got to pass the football and they got to keep Penix upright. And if the Ducks pass rush can get to him, you mentioned Shadur Sanders. Now, granted, Washington's offensive line is going to be better than Colorado's. However, coming into this season, that was considered the weakness of this team. Was we knew they had a great receiving core. We knew they had a great quarterback. They're okay at running back. Their defense is sort of a bend, don't break style of defense. The question mark was the offensive line. Now, they haven't really been tested. They haven't really faced a defense like this Oregon defense. So we'll see. Like I said, I was hoping the weather would be a little bit worse here because bad weather has a way of neutralizing a big advantage in the passing game. And then a team that's one-dimensional with the pass, which Washington somewhat is one-dimensional with their passing game, would suffer in bad weather. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I'm still comfortable with my pick. This is my least favorite of all my picks today. But at the end of the day, the Ducks are, they've got more ways to win than Washington does. They're going to have to do it on the road, which is tough, but they've got a running game. They've got a defense. They've got the pass rush. All they got to do is create a few turnovers, get to the quarterback a little bit, and they should be right in this game. And this game does sort of stink like a double overtime, 2-point conversion decided by, a 42-41 kind of thriller, something along those lines. And I think we're all here for that. We'd all like to see that. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope. I know Joey's not hoping for that because Joey needs a win today. And secretly, I might be cheering for him as well. Anyways, Joey, do you have anything to add, or you want to give way to Kevin Thomas and wait till we do the roundtable a little later?
Yeah, just want to say enjoy the game and good luck. I think it's going to be a phenomenal one between these two teams.
Before you go, Joey, why don't you tell everybody what you got on your card today, where they can find you, and what you've been doing lately, if you got any hot streaks?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me over at insidersroom.com under Joey Tron. I'm doing pretty well in hockey right now. I'm off to a 5-2 start going into the opening weekend. I have 1 NHL play up over there. Then I got 3 college footballs. I'm 6-3 my last 9 overall, and I'm looking for a big day today.
It's a little too hot to be wearing that Ducks hoodie at the beach here. Well, thanks, Joey. I'll send you backstage. We'll see you in about 10 minutes. Kevin Thomas, you must be pretty happy with yourself laying a whooping on me the last time you were on my show picking Clemson over Syracuse. What do you have to say for yourself today?
I might have tweeted that out a little bit. I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident today too, as well. I mean, last week you told me you were going to start, and you made me start. So I'm hoping this week you get to start the show here.
He's going to put it right on me. Put it right on me. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I don't even need any notes or anything. The main reason why I like Miami here, Kevin, is because everybody else likes the Tar Heels, and I'm looking at this game. Why Why is everybody all over the Tar Heels? Well, everybody saw what happened last week. Mario Cristobal elects to run the ball when he could have just kneeled it, and the game would have been over. And Miami would be 5-0. It would have been an unimpressive win over Georgia Tech, but we've seen the likes of Texas have an unimpressive win at Wyoming. We saw Alabama with an unimpressive win at South Florida. We've seen Ohio State have unimpressive games. We've seen all the big teams, all the teams that we consider almost unbeatable, have had their moments where they've had these unimpressive wins. And really, Miami should be in that position as well if it wasn't for their head coach. And I just don't think that coaching decision reflects on how well their offense is playing, how well their defense is playing, their personnel on offense and defense, and how they match up against a Tar Heels team that has beat them 4 times in a row. The Tar Heels have beat Miami 4 times in a row. However, 3 of those games decided by 3 points exactly, including last year's game. It was 27-24 for the Tar Heels, despite the fact that Miami outgained them 538 yards to 470. Drake May had a pretty decent game, 300 and something yards, couple touchdowns, couple picks, but Tyler Van Dyke threw for almost 500 yards, 496 yards, 42 of 57 passing, 3 touchdowns and a pick. They say that the Tar Heels defense is much improved, but I say much improved against who exactly? They gave up, 34, 36 points to Appalachian State at home earlier this season. Who they've been beaten up on. They haven't been beaten up on ranked teams. Miami, on the other hand, they laid a whooping on a pretty good Texas A&M defense. So if they can score on Texas A&M, I feel comfortable. They can score on the Tar Heels. They can run the ball. They're more diverse. Again, the Tar Heels fit into this category that Washington fits in. They're reliant on the passing game and a stud at quarterback. But if you get a good defense and they are able to disrupt that offense a little bit, get a few sacks, cause a few turnovers, it will change the game in a hurry. But mostly, the line, I booked it at 3.5. Now, we'll give you a 3, Kevin, because the money's coming on Miami. There's really no 3.5s left anymore. But that line to me reflects an overreaction based on the results of last week. And I feel very strongly in my handicapping philosophy that overreacting to the previous week's results is a recipe for disaster. And that's the main point I'm trying to make with this pick. It's not that I can't see the Tar Heels winning. It's not that I love Miami like it's going to be my ACC game of the year. I'm just saying that if you're betting on the Tar Heels because of what happened to Miami last week, you're making the wrong decision. Now, if you're betting on the Tar Heels for various other reasons, which Kevin's probably going to tell you, maybe you're right. Just as long as you're not solely betting on the Tar Heels based on what happened last week. Take it away, Kevin. What say you?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Appalachian State game, because in that game, May, he only threw for 200 yards, but Hamilton, he rushed for over 236 yards. So that means UNC right now, they're not a one-dimensional team. And I'm not saying Miami is, even though Miami does love to pass the ball around. Van Dyke killed me last year in a lot of bets. I always thought he was a good quarterback, not Heisman Trophy worthy, but he's a decent quarterback. The problem here for me is we got Miami, who is 0-7 playing in Chapel Hill for the last 7. They're 1-4, and they're 1-4 against the spread against UNC. UNC, like you brought out, hasn't played anybody. You don't think UNC has heard this from many people? They're getting a ranked 25th Miami team at home. You don't think they want to kick their ass to prove to all the critics like yourself, who, when you hear UNC, you're thinking basketball. You're not even thinking about their football team. We know that. Miami, known Hurricanes, is a football program. Who'd they play? I mean, they lost to Georgia Tech at home, who they should have crushed, and they lost. It could be the coach's fault or not. It shouldn't even been that close. Georgia Tech was 2-3 coming in that game in Miami. Now, you expect Miami to go on the road where it's going to be loud and crazy and not turn the ball over. UNC averages 36 points and a half a game, and it's going to be no problem against Miami. I don't care how good Miami's defense is. UNC wants this game more than anything. This is a ranked team ACC matchup, and I don't care if the line's at 2.5. I mean, I love it at 2.5 because I think it is going to be a close game, but UNC is going to win this, and it probably will be a field goal, so to get a push. But if you can get that 2.5, make sure you rock that number because UNC is not losing this game at home.
Okay, well, I hope you don't mind if I just add a little bit of that about the Georgia Tech game. From my point of view, I'm choosing to handicap this as if the game was won. Effectively, Mario Cristobal could have kneeled, game over, it's done. It was his choice. He chose to, he refused to accept what was already a victory for his team. That's not his team's fault. However, I will point out what's significant to me in that game is 5 turnovers for Miami. Haynes King, the quarterback for Georgia Tech, at the point with 40 seconds remaining, Miami has the ball and the potential to kneel and end the game. Haynes King had thrown for 77 yards and 2 picks. So as much as it was an ugly game and a bad game for Miami, if they just kneel in that spot, they've held the opponent to 77 passing yards, 2 interceptions. They overcome a game where they turn the ball over 5 times. Most teams at some point in their schedule have a game where the turnovers turn the game upside down. Everything seems to be working against them, and that's where they suffer a loss in a game that they should have won. Great teams overcome those games. Miami almost, essentially did overcome all that, but they couldn't overcome the brain fart by their head coach at the end of the game. And I'm not going to let that affect my decision in this game. Again, this isn't a game of the year on Miami. It's just I'm not willing to bet against Miami based on that game that occurred last week. You made a lot of solid points that had nothing to do with that game, but just in reflection to that game is all I wanted to make the point on. But before we get you out of here, Kevin, we're not getting you out of here. We're bringing everybody else in. Before we bring everybody else in, why don't you tell us about all your winning, where they can get your picks, what you got available, and where they can find you.
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. Look, it's been a horrible college season so far for me. I tend to go super sharp. I had Eastern Carolina covering the spread, and then I turned it off to watch baseball. And the next day I realized they lost. They gave up 17 points in 3 minutes to blow to cover. But last night I jumped back with Tulane, huge win. So I feel some momentum going. I feel like the odds makers are starting to get it more of a read on these games. I try to find the smaller game markets. Those games tend to go favorably for the sharp bettors. These big games like we're going to have here today, they're hard to predict. I'm looking at the lines right now, 59-60% of the money on Miami. That's huge. It's actually on the other side. That's when you get that much bets and that much public money on, I tend to fade. So if I was going to have a premium investment on this, I would look for Miami plus the 3.5. But for this show, I would take UNC minus 2.5. I do think that 3 is a perfect number. I think they nailed it right on there. I might even look at the over a little bit on that game. But what I got going on over at Sports Memo, you can find all my premium picks there. I got 3 picks, 3 college picks. If you're like you just want one top pick, you can find that there. But over $90 it would cost. You get all 3 of them for $30 only at Sports Memo, happening today. College gold, college gridiron gold. I feel like the momentum's starting to shift. We're going to sweep the board. So head over to Sports Memo and you can grab that great deal right there.
And you can find the link for Kevin in the description box below this video, as well as Joey Tron and Rye Cape of the Insiders Room. You can find their links in the description box below the video. All right, boys. Anybody got any action or any information for any of the other games going on this week?
Well, do you want to talk about our game?
Oh, you want me to kick these guys out of here and we'll talk about our game, Ryan? Let's do it. Let's kick them out. Maybe I was just a little bit upset about that loss with Maryland last week. I really felt like Maryland was going to get the cover for me, and the couple touchdowns in the last 2 minutes to give you the backdoor cover for Ohio State. That still wears on me a little bit. But this week I feel better about my chances. I'm looking at Notre Dame against USC. You want to go first, or you want me to go first, Ron?
Yeah, I'll start banging this out. So this is the most bet game on the slate on Saturday, which is always concerning to me. But my biggest thing here is the line has stayed steady at 2.5. Why aren't they putting it at 3? So Notre Dame is playing their 4th consecutive primetime game. I'm sure that's got to be taxing on them. This game is at Notre Dame, which should benefit them. The weather could also be a problem. We'll have to ask Joey Tron about that since he's in that part of the country. But Notre Dame did look bad last week. Hartman was sacked 5 times, threw 3 interceptions. The Irish have only converted 29% of their third downs the past 3 weeks. Obviously, I don't expect the offense to look as bad this week against bad USC defense. But USC defense does do something good. Trojans lead the nation in tackles for losses with 57. They're also ranked 4th nationally in sacks with 22. So they get to the quarterback. They put pressure on them. Trojans also held this team to 99 rushing yards last season. Notre Dame hasn't looked right since the Ohio State loss. They do have a superior defense here, but they are playing the best offense in college football. Caleb Williams is one of the best players in college football. He's thrown 4 touchdowns and more in his last 8 games. He's the type of player that can hide his team's flaws. Trojans are 2nd in the nation in yards per play at 8.45, and in explosive plays from scrimmage, which they have 47 plays of 20-plus yards through 6 games. USC does like to throw the ball. That may be a problem in this weather, but they also have a great running game. They have Marshawn Lloyd. He is a big play threat. 7 yards, 8 per carry. This game does have a potential to be a shootout. If that happens, I can't rely on the Notre Dame offense to keep up. In their last 3 games, Notre Dame has averaged 18.3 points per game. It's not going to be enough to keep up with this USC offense. This Notre Dame team just looks like they're out of gas. They're losing confidence. I think USC is going to put on a show that Notre Dame can't handle. Another thing I like here is the USC team total over 29.5. I just think this USC offense is going to be too much for Notre Dame, whether they run the ball or throw the ball. As I said, if they can't pass the ball, they have a great running attack. And obviously, I think this is going to be a close game, but we'll take the points.
All right, Rye. Well, this game compared to the Washington-Oregon game, I took a stab based on the weather report. The weatherman screwed me in the Pac-12 game, but the weatherman's coming through in this game because I just checked it. It looks like high winds, heavy rains, not a 95%, but 100% precipitation. It's going to rain. There's going to be some wind. That could take away the passing game. And if you take away Caleb Williams from USC, also they've got a pretty severe injury, or a significant injury, sorry, not severe, but significant, to one of their top receivers and punt returners. And Notre Dame is built for bad weather games. They've got a big, bad offensive line, Estime in the backfield. They can run the ball. They certainly have a superior defense. And they need to get right. Like you said, they have not looked this. They've looked terrible since the Ohio State game. But part of my handicapping process is, Rye, I like to catch teams that are looking terrible when they start to turn to good, and teams that are looking good, because eventually all teams have their down day. Very few teams emerge from the season unscathed with a perfect record, especially teams that don't play defense. And USC's defense is still a big question mark. Given the bad weather, I think that's a huge advantage for Notre Dame. I feel better about this pick than I do about my pick on Oregon with Joey. So that's where I stand with this game. before we bring everybody else in, Rye, why don't you tell us about your winning streaks, where they can find you, and what you got up today for your games?
Yeah, like Kevin Thomas, college football hasn't been so great this past week, but I'm looking to bounce back again. So I do have 2 college football plays on insidersroom.com. I also have an NHL play there. Obviously, when baseball starts up, I'll be on that again. I'm on a 10-3 run on MLB. So, yeah, make sure you check me out. On Insider's Room, my name is Tom Macrina. So if you don't find Rycape, you're looking for Tom Macrina. That is me. Let's cash some tickets.
All righty. Well, let's bring the boys in, and let's see if anybody's got any other games that they want to talk about. Where did Rye go? There he is. All right. So does anybody have any opinions on the Tennessee A&M game?
I don't know. It's a tough one. Line moved toward Tennessee, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not high on A&M. I'm not a big Jimbo Fisher guy. If I had to pick something, it would be Tennessee with the points, but definitely stay away from me.
I think it's a good spot.
Yeah. A lot of people want to fade A&M after the loss to Alabama. It looks like a dream crusher spot for A&M. I think Jimbo Fisher is sort of fighting for his job, though, fighting for his self-respect. One of the things I noticed in that game against Alabama is they held the Tide to just 23 rushing yards. And the identity of this Tennessee team at the moment seems to be running the football rather than throwing it. Joe Milton hasn't done a lot throwing the football, and the Aggies are a pretty good defense. They got a pretty good defense. I think it's going to be tough for Joe Milton to light them up the way that Jermaine Burton and Jalen Milroe did last week. So I expect it to be a tough game for both teams. Wouldn't be surprised if it was low scoring. Anybody else got any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, I would take the under.
You like the under in that one?
Yeah, I see a defensive game too in that one.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the pros on the shows giving out picks on the under in that game, and I think for very good reason. I think it's been bet down quite a bit too. What about the Colorado-Stanford game last night? Did anybody have any plays in that one?
No, but anytime Colorado loses, I'm a happy man. So
I actually used my 100% profit boost on Stanford, so I'm a happy man. Obviously, nice. I got the 12.5, but I wish I would have put it on the money line.
Did you guys see the Stanford player coming up and showing the crowd his wrist, mocking Shedeur Sanders?
I love it.
Rye was snoring.
Oh yeah, I had just woken up at that time. That was like 10 a.m. my time or something. Just got out of bed, but I can't believe that Shedeur Sanders has the big fat watch from the NIL money, and he's flaunting it like that. And I mean, I don't know. I guess Dion is his dad, but if my boy was doing that, he'd catch a can of whoop ass in an awful hurry. Let me tell you. Any other games anybody's interested in tonight, later on today?
If I could give one out, I would definitely look at Northern Illinois at home against Ohio. I saw that line move down, and people undervalue Lombardi as the quarterback there, but I think he can run on Ohio. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I would actually maybe take NIU to win outright, but because Ohio's that good.
Rocky Lombardi, he must be 30 years old by now. Is he a fifth-year senior or like a super senior or something?
He's like that McCall kid from Coastal Carolina. They just keep playing as seniors. It's like they never move on.
Yeah, maybe they're happy with the NIL money. Well, we're not getting much in the comments here, and I'm sure we all want to just get our drank on and get to watching college football game day before the game starts. So I want to thank all of you guys for joining us today. You did an excellent job of breaking down the games. And one more time, you can find the links to their handicapping pages in the description box below. And you can find me at jesseshewell.com. Come see me. You'll be glad that you did. Good luck today, guys.
Go Phillies.